Okay.
Okay, are we going?
So it's the real word.
We're just going to do our normal spiel, and then next week we're changing it up.
Maybe we should let them know.
Okay.
Like at the end.
All right.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, let's let them know. This is Byron Lazine and Nicole White, and you are tuned into episode 16 of The Real Word. I'm pretty sure it's 16.
We got our driver's license today.
Ooh, look at that. You planned the shit out of that.
I didn't, but it worked beautifully.
We're talking cars today.
We are talking cars today. Who knew? We did, but we got our driver's license today. I did know. Which is why you gave that little your
segue.
Your screen is brighter than mine.
Yeah,
What's up with that?
I have a brighter screen.
Okay.
That's true. So we're talking a Forbes article, which we'll link up, of course. And the caption just caught my attention right away, the headline rather. How driverless cars could disrupt the real estate industry.
I feel like the it's a little bit more bold than the article really is.
No.
You think it's bold? Not bold? You
think
it's accurate?
I think it's accurate. It's a great conversation.
It's a very interesting conversation because I actually started listening, or I engaged in the reading of the article with a completely different idea of what I would be reading than what I ended up reading.
All right, when you saw the headline, what do you think they were talking about? Like what was your initial thought?
My initial thought, because obviously, I'm maybe a little self-absorbed when it comes to like, hey, it's about
little.
No. I just mean like about like the real estate industry. I was really sort of thinking more how it would disrupt realtors. Yeah. Realtors. Yes. Us realtors over here. I really thought that it was going to be more about how it's going to disrupt that. And like, I couldn't really make sense of how it would disrupt that because maybe you're just getting a little bit more work done while you're in the driverless car. I guess my mindset.
Can't wait for that.
I know. Well, that's because that's right. But I guess, also, we don't live in a city, right? I'm not a city folk. I don't live in a city. The article actually sort of is a better conversation for someone that lives in a city where parking
everything America does revolves around cities, right?
Right. I get it. I get that. So obviously, but me going into the article, I had a completely different idea of what I was going to be reading. It was still, again, like I said at the end, I mean, this can have many different conversations. So lead away.
Well, I think they're and Ellie. Would you go with
Eli?
Ellie? Oh, did you go with Eli?
Eli. It's
I just see the I at the end of Eli.
Eli.
All right. Eli Raisin brought up a ton of good points.
Tons. I mean, it goes on and on.
So right now, what we're experiencing with residential real estate is people want to, if they live in small little shoreline towns like ours, or if they live in the big city, they want to be close to the action. They want to have walkable places to go, restaurants,
Absolutely.
shopping, dining, places to hang out,
For
places
sure.
to have a coffee. That's but 20 years ago when you grew up in your town, downtown was not what it is today.
No, I mean, even just the water though, like I feel like that's where like lower income, blue collared workers were along sort of the railroad. They were closer to the water.
Fishermen,
right?
The whole thing.
Yeah, right. So I mean, the whole demographic has changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now people, let's just take your hometown as an example.
Right.
Guilford.
Okay.
People wanted to be in the northern part of town.
Well, they actually
middle Guilford, north.
Well, I think
north of 95.
And it really had more to do with where they could build their like McMansion.
Right.
Where was there enough land
which you couldn't
to
get
develop?
that downtown.
Absolutely not. Right.
So and you had older homes downtown.
Right.
They wanted new, big, huge lot, huge square footage,
neighborhood.
The turnaround driveway, the whole thing, right?
Whole thing.
And today, people don't want as big of a house.
No, definitely don't want as big of a
past.
house. No, because they don't want to be house poor. They want to experience more of life. They want to, especially if you have children, like, gosh, what's better than being able to like walk downtown to grab like an ice cream
Absolutely.
or we're out of milk,
They also overwhelmingly don't want to tack on drive time to wherever they're going.
No.
So living in certain parts of certain towns or in suburbs or in the woods tax on 10, 15, 20. In some cases, some towns where we work, it could be 30 minutes away from, not in necessarily Guilford, but 30 minutes.
No, but you're actually then spending your whole afternoon. There's plenty of parents that I know that live so far from, say, like the high school, that if there is a practice for them to drive 20 minutes, it's pointless for them to drive all the way back home to then have to come back and pick up. So they're then making that drop off like into part of their day. So then they'll go to like the grocery store, or they'll just like hang out, or they'll go to the library, or maybe they'll just sit in the parking lot and wait the hour and a half because it makes zero sense.
Sit on this thing.
Right. I mean, and obviously that's not a horrible option if you have some work that you need to do. But yeah, I mean, people are just not even going home anymore in between.
But think about
the drive
this.
Is far enough.
If you have a driverless car that's bringing you around, now there's that big house a little bit outside of downtown.
Right.
Maybe now I'll buy that at a discount because I know that I can use my time in my driverless car to order my groceries online,
or you stay home and you put your kid
or
in
you
the
just
driverless
stay home
car.
or whatever it may be. I get my work done, I get my emails done, whatever it may be.
I'm
like not
higher
as
than me.
I bumped it up to have the dominance chair here.
Clearly. Cheapers. Okay.
But you can spend your time in the car or send somebody in the car, and it's not that big of a deal if it's a half-hour drive anymore because you're getting stuff done, which is why I think, and it talks about, and we'll get into the whole commercial side of real estate.
Yes.
It talks about the trains. I think people don't mind taking the train into the city over driving where we are here in Connecticut is because you can spend that 2 hours, 1 hour, however long your train ride is, using your phone, using your laptop, watching a movie, listening to a podcast, doing whatever you want.
Right.
So when they talk about the commercial real estate, right now in cities especially, people are buying up the premier commercial properties that are close to public transit, that have parking. Driverless cars dropping you off at work now means you could go off the beaten path a little bit, and maybe get even a better building that suits your needs, or a bigger building that you can grow into as a company at a lower rent.
Right.
And you don't worry about the parking as much.
Right. Well, and that was another part of it. I mean, there were so many things he talked about in this article, because he was even talking about parking garages and, not having to sort of buy up so much land to just build parking garages. And then obviously if people then don't need to park their cars, like, goodness, what can be developed then where these parking garages are? I mean, there are so many things tackled in this article. It's actually, again, like going into it thinking that it was really more for like the realtor, how it would change our game. There's lots of things to think about. I think we're super far off from it, I feel like.
Oh, of course. But what he hit on was the fact, and I mean, super far off in the sense, I mean, Uber already bought or ordered rather.
Yeah, but they weren't driverless. They bought a whole fleet of Volvos.
A fleet of Volvos that they're going to use for driverless cars. 24,000 SUVs from Volvo to form a fleet of driverless vehicles.
Oh, see, okay.
So they're I mean, granted, to your point, this isn't going. You're not going to walk out of the office here today and get a driverless car.
I think that there's also like the other side, because he was talking about there actually being less traffic with them, which I don't see how that could be, because all of a sudden if you're not taking the train, could personally just be in a car by yourself. And so could everybody else that used to take a train. So I don't know how it's cutting back on traffic.
What I do see is the ebbs and flows of and the cycles rather of how we live as humans. I think that right now there's this huge craze for downtown living, and that's going to 100% sustain itself over the next 10 years. That being said, as we get more technology, I can see a day in 15-ish years that people want to go back to the off the beating path. When all this stuff plays out, think about 7 years on the road. There's driverless vehicles, and there's all this new technology, and there's AI, and there's all this stuff. When you really don't have to leave your house for anything, when your fridge is ordering milk for you and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, God, that would be awesome.
Don't you see in 15, 20 years people going back saying, oh, I want to leave the city and the downtowns, and I just want this 5,000 square foot house because everything I literally need is going to be at my house, and I'm going to have all the technology to never leave. And people go back to that because it's happened over and over again.
Yeah, I just don't know if I'd ever want 5,000 square feet.
Listen, everybody's going to have personal differences.
Right.
I'm talking about the masses.
Right.
Right now, the masses, and the reason why the masses overwhelmingly want downtown living, right, is because your biggest buyer in 2018 is millennials.
Right.
What's your second biggest buyer? People retiring.
Right.
They both want the same thing, which is interesting.
Right.
The retirees want downsize, easy living, and so do the millennials.
Right.
So you kind of have the perfect storm right now for downtown living over the next 5-10 years.
Right.
But I could 100%, 15 years from now, see the reverse happen. And then all those houses that have, over the last 10 years, the baby boomers selling off these big houses at a discount, somebody scoops them up at a discount and the trend flips the other way.
Right. Potentially. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have so much stuff. You are never going to have to leave your house someday.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to do 3D printing at your house. Your fridge is going to be ordering stuff for you. Your mirror is going to be telling you how much makeup to put on.
I love it.
All these crazy things
They'll be
are going
calling
to be
up
happening.
Ulta and getting me my mascara.
You're going to have your own movie theater.
Yeah. Wow. Look at you.
You know.
We'll have our own sound studio.
You have your own sound and anything you want.
Right.
Right? Like, and so I do think that it's going to impact the cycles of real estate a little bit more.
Well, but I think in all honesty, though, I mean, like everything else, something almost needed to happen in order to move in this direction because, you know, if there is such a high demand for, you know, again, this was mostly about cities. So if there was such a huge demand for city, I mean, you think of like even like San Francisco, you know, like even like the Bay Area. I mean, people that have been living there for years, like legit can't even afford to stay in their homes anymore because everybody wants to be right in that city. So you almost have to figure out a way to get the people out of the city a little bit more. And this is like I don't know if
and on the short term, I think it changes nothing, which is why I'm talking 15 years because in the city, think about it. How many people are already just getting an Uber?
Right.
Which has a person in there, but that doesn't make a difference between them getting dropped off or not. They're getting dropped off where they work from the Uber driver or public transportation.
So that's the biggest thing too. I mean, obviously, like it's great that Uber is staying ahead of it. I guess I'd almost maybe rather a driver just because like I feel like maybe I'm a little more old school. And then they're obviously like they're getting some money. Like it's just like maybe better for the economy. But
I'd rather anybody driving except for me. But there's going to be certain dudes that are not giving up the Ford F-150. Like there are people that are not going to give up their cars very easily.
No, but again, like, and this conversation was more around city. Yeah. So if you're not in a big city where parking is scarce, or you know you're trying to get a bigger commercial spot, I mean, this is kind of a moot point because if you're going to be Ubering from like Guilford to Brantford or getting Uber Eats in a small this doesn't change what it is that you're doing. Maybe it makes your life a little bit more convenient because no, it doesn't even really, I don't even feel like it changes much because like even if I needed to like Uber my kid to like a sporting event because I couldn't do them, like it's all
when the technology's played out where you own your own driverless vehicle, that's where it really changes the game.
Right.
When it's played out all the way through, like it's going to start with these Ubers and different things like that. And when it filters out to the end consumer where like, you know, like when CD players first were installed in cars and like you know you didn't have to play the tape cassette like like it played out where then everybody had a CD player.
I still wish I had a CD player
once
in my
it plays out where everybody has the functionality and there's going to be so much, and that's why I mean 15 years could even be, I mean the rate we're going it could be right on, but it could be more than that. Like people are going to have to be retrained on how you drive.
Oh, absolutely.
And the whole thing.
Oh, my goodness. Laws will have to change because then what? Like, are you partying in the car? Who's responsible for the car?
Oh, you're definitely
16?
partying in the car.
I mean it gives road soda a whole new meaning.
Road soda goes to road whiskey. All right, cool.
Great article, though. Again, you guys should read it. I'm curious to see what you think because, again, there's lots of touch points there. Again, we don't live in the city, so I'm kind of curious to see what the people that live in a city, how they see it changing their commute, how it maybe is going to change or affect their lives. Not even socially, but obviously work-wise, too. Like, will you take a carless, a personless? Driverless car over a train? Or is it that a train is just actually getting you to work quicker? I mean, if you take a subway in New York, I'm sure it's much faster than sitting in traffic at 15 million red lights. So it doesn't eliminate that.
If the subway's right below your building, you're going to walk down to right. So there's so many different variables.
Absolutely.
We'll link it up. It's a long read, but it's a good read. Check it out. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think about driverless vehicles, and we might do some changes to this. We're definitely changing some formats to the show.
I'm kind of excited. We decided on this 13 minutes ago.
the format we've been talking about, trying to get more articles, shorter feedback on each topic. So we kind of want to go back to that, where we were doing 2, now we're down to 1, but we kind of want to go up to 4.
Yeah.
So if you let us know if you think more content in each episode is a benefit, or just digging deep like we've been doing, if you like that style better.
Right.
And then we're thinking about changing the name of the show completely.
But maybe that's what it is. So if you guys have been listening to the end, throw us some names. We have a name in mind.
Throw us some names. We have a name that we really like. But
love it.
Or just tell us if you're super passionate about the real word.
I am super passionate about the real word. I feel like it's not going to go away. We'll definitely probably make a sign and hang it up somewhere, just because like that's how we started.
Yeah.
It's like,
for everybody that did drop us a clam chowder and dropped us a P, there was people that dropped the P. We've got stuff coming for you, so stay tuned for
Thank you for that.
And let us know how attached you are to the name The Real Word, and we'll see you guys next week.